Welcome, everybody, to Worldwide Academy Training Services. I'm Donna Penna, and this is our lead instructor, Thurston Gill Jr. We're so glad that you joined us today again for another recording and discussion. Today, we are going to discuss a network that has been forming in our local area regarding emergency preparedness. And it's been something that we've actually tried to do years ago. And you know how things go. People have lives and things kind of fizzle out. But now I guess it's the time. Things are starting to happen. So we're going to discuss that a little bit. But before we do that, I would just like to ask you if you wouldn't mind to please go hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, comment, share. Please help us to get this information out to people. It's really important info that we are discussing on these visits together regarding not just emergency preparedness, but also things that have to do with safety and security and, personal protection, things like that. And some fun things. I just did an interview with our local dog sitter expert. And so we do some really fun. I think it's all fun, but it's a lot of important information too. So please help us to get this up in the algorithm so more people can see it, like, subscribe, share, comment, because when you do those things, it does push it up a little bit or pushes it up. So thank you. And all right, so Thurston, how you been? What's going on?
Looking good. So far so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a bit a bit of time, but things have still been happening. We uh, I neither you or nor myself have been stagnant. We're just involved in evolving ourselves and just working out those things that I believe the Lord's put upon our hearts to be able to do for the sake of others. So it's been moving and shaking. Let's put it that way.
Mhm. Sure has. Everything has, right?
Yes.
The whole world is. And I think that's, there's never been a better moment than now to really, buckle down and or keep moving forward if you haven't been, but if you haven't started with emergency preparedness and networking with others, then it's the time to do it. So, um, let's
Absolutely.
let's can we start with, unless you have something else, but can we talk about why is it important to network beyond your own family unit? Why is it important to what or describe to us what exactly is what you are doing? Maybe that we
Okay.
can start with that.
Okay. That's good. Um, what I'm doing is connecting with various ministries in our area to kind of get them to cooperate uh, in a sense, so that when there is a disaster or some type of crisis event that occurs in their area or in our general area, that we have a system in place to be able to address it. Many of our ministries have outreaches or some form of outreach in which they have um, a ministry or a program designed to address the needs of individuals in their community. But what they lack is a more uh, refined system that not only not only provides the needs for their immediate community, but when or if those needs exceed or overwhelm their ability to address those needs, what do they fall back to? Well, it would be great if there were contingency plans in place that when a particular ministry is overwhelmed, whatever the need is in that particular crisis, that there are other ministries in the area already connected, already set up, and already have the mindset to provide that care of mutual aid to be able to address that need. Like um, a crisis may occur; it might not affect our entire region here in Lehigh Valley. It may just affect a portion of it. Well, that portion is the one where we need to focus on making sure that they're prepared, that they're ready, that they can respond, and most importantly, that they recover to normalcy as much as possible.
Mm.
Well, a lot of people can't, a lot of ministries can't do it on their own, and people can't do it on their own. And I'm concerned that even the emergency preparedness movement seems to be directed toward this idea of me and mine,
Mm.
and that's dangerous. Not only is it not biblical, it's not ethical. Uh, it's dangerous because you're on your own. I often refer back to an analogy that was given to me years ago about the the flaws involved in separating ourselves from people that love and support us. If you have like a campfire that's made of wood, that fire, once it's started, it begins to burn. Take one of those logs out of that fire and set it to the side. And what happens to that log?
Mm.
The fire goes out.
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
begins to go cold. It begins to go out, and there's really no fire anymore. It's just a piece of dead wood.
Mhm.
And that's what happens when you separate yourself from your supports, your resources, your energy, your source. Uh, it really is, I hate to say it's common sense, but it's something that for some reason seems to have kind of embedded itself
Mm.
in our society and even in the church to a certain degree. Many churches themselves have that idea. They're just concerned with themselves and theirs. Well, what happens when, again, the circumstances overwhelms your ability to handle it? Then what? Yes, we do depend upon the Lord. The Lord is our first source, but He also has set up systems of support that are available. That if we're wise, we would leverage to our advantage. And if it's not for our own sakes, for the sake of the people that are around us. So
Yeah.
so that's the idea.
So let's talk, let's go for people who don't really know you, um, and maybe haven't, are just connecting with us for the first time, who don't know what your background is, how you, why don't you give us a little bit of background on yourself? What brought you to this point? Why are you, and what are you doing with connecting those different, you're connecting churches, correct? Is that, and different ministries, and when they don't have to be a church.
Exactly.
So that people have an idea of your background, your knowledge, and what your role actually is in that capacity.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I my background primarily consists of um, security and law enforcement. I was in security. I was in law enforcement for only a couple of years. I was in security prior to law enforcement and ended up back into security uh, um, after my career was short-ended, so to speak. But I'm also an ordained minister as well, Christian minister. I also have a background in mental health recovery. I also have a background in EMS. I was an EMT for a couple of years, but for most of my emergency medical career has been in a corporate environment. I'm a basic life support instructor. Been a, I am a training center um, training coordinator for basic life support. Um, so
Lots of experience.
yes, exactly, and the Lord has been preparing me with these experiences and these backgrounds in order to provide a codification or a putting together of skills whereby we can leverage these skills as communities to be able to protect ourselves. And so that's what I've been doing is basically preaching that message, so to speak,
Mhm.
of, look at the instability that we have in this nation, in our communities, in our homes, our families, in our very lives.
Mhm.
What are we doing to prepare for the inevitable? What are we doing to be ready for the inevitable? What are we doing to make sure that we respond instead of reacting to the inevitable? And
Mhm.
then what do we do? And this is the last part. I want to reiterate this. What do we do to recover? What do we do to make things normal again? Or
Mhm.
at least a healthy new normal?
Right.
And all of that takes intentional focus. It
Right.
takes energy, time.
Yeah.
And if it's not important to us, we basically just go with the flow type of thing. And it doesn't go well. It doesn't go
Mhm.
well.
Yeah, and I've known you for a long time, and I know that you've been preparing, you've been learning, you've been studying this whole thing for many years, for as long as I've known you, and I'm, sure it was before that too. So I know that you bring a wealth of knowledge with you when when you're working with groups. What are you actually, is there an actual, what are you actually doing with, when if you, let's say, I have a ministry, I have a church that's, I'm reaching out to you. What will you do with our group to help us to prepare or to help further our ministry in that area? What is your actual role?
That's a good question. And also, I want to go back to something that you kind of emphasize is that what I do or my mission or calling for this is not just for church ministries. It's for families. It's for individuals that live on their own. It's for businesses. Um, I've been involved in corporate security for it's about 30 years or so. I've done executive protection. I've done security management. I've done uh, management of training and development.
Mhm.
And one of the benefits that corporations and companies have is they have resources to send me to school and to classes, resources to buy certain equipment, and so on and so forth. And that's great for the organization. But what about the common folk? What
Mhm.
about, the person that has a family or trying to keep their family safe? Or what about the small business? Or what about the single person that has decided to pull a trigger and go on their own into the big city by themselves, and they have to navigate all of this instability to create a life or cut of a life for themselves.
Mhm.
It's not easy, and I believe that um, we as a society, many of us in society, kind of um, self inoculate ourselves to a certain degree to desensitize ourselves to all the negatives that are around us, um, and just focus on the positives. And unfortunately, it leaves gaps. It
Mhm.
leaves gaps. And I'm not saying we should not focus or spend time in the positive. We must. I mean,
Mhm.
we
Yeah.
must, not at the expense of
Right.
the precautions that we need to take to make sure that we're safe. So the first thing I would start with is um, understanding what your commitment is in keeping yourself safe, because this is all about emergency preparedness is all about security and safety. It's not separate from, it
Hmm.
is. it's security and safety. Uh, what's your level of commitment here? Is this something like, you just want an awareness, or you're at the stage where, look, I want to see what I need to do, and I'm willing to do whatever I can to start in that process. Oh, okay. Once I know that, then at least I know how to govern myself. Because what I don't want to happen, and I'm gonna be honest, is that we waste a whole lot of time in preparing you, or preparing information and giving information that'll just sit on a shelf somewhere. Maybe I'm just there, just called to give you an awareness so that you can kind of marinate in it, so that you can kind of develop a sense of, okay, you know, I I've spent some time thinking about this, and I've been kind of like walk through the process of where I need what I need to do. I'm ready to pull the trigger now. I'm ready to make a commitment on this. Okay, I need to know what's the first step. Well, the first step is getting an honest assessment as to what type of threats I'm going to be dealing with.
Mhm.
We're not going to spend a whole lot of time preparing for um, earthquakes, and earthquakes don't happen in your region, or very rarely. And
Mhm.
when you have floods several times a year. We want to focus on what your realistic threats are, not the things that can possibly happen. If we took that approach, we'd be preparing for everything. We focus on what is the most probable. And it doesn't have to necessarily be these big disasters. That's another thing. We're preparing for the floods that occur on a regular basis every year, but what kind of precautions have we taken to provide some job security? Especially into with today's job market, and especially if you're a government employee today, you need to be thinking about
Mhm.
what happens if I lose my job.
Mhm.
What do I need to do in regard to that? I mean, it's one thing if you're by yourself, but it's another thing if you have kids, you have a spouse, you you know
Yeah,
they go to school, and they have been in private school, or you have a game plan, where a financial game plan that depends upon you working every day.
that's
um,
interesting. That's interesting because I don't think that most people think about that as part of a planning for an emergency.
no, they don't. They don't.
So yeah, that's extremely important because if you don't have the income coming in, then you cannot prepare
Yeah,
and purchase
I
some
mean,
things that you might need. So
exactly. Well, let's say this: you're extremely limited. The other thing
yeah,
is
yeah.
another thing is your health. Um, I,
Mm,
and when I talk about it, I know the light goes off in everybody's head. All that makes sense. If I'm not going, if I'm not making my doctor's appointments, if I'm not doing what the doctor says in terms of preventive maintenance, if I'm not doing X, Y, and Z, taking my medication on a regular basis, if I'm not exercising, staying moving every hour instead of,
mhm.
you know, how are you how are you going to be able to respond in the situations that require for you to physically do so, and to do so quickly and efficiently? It's going to become problematic. And we can't, because of our lack of self-care, we can't we can't find ourselves. We have to avoid finding ourselves being in doctors' offices and being in hospitals
Sure.
and having procedures for stuff that we could prevent.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
You
Absolutely.
know, so yeah, so it's more comprehensive than I do force people to look at their reality. I we can go into fantasy, we can go into the tactical of preparedness, and we can have fun, absolutely. But there's a lot of rude awakening that many of us need to experience in order to approach this thing properly. It really does. And then the education process of educating not only yourself, but also educating your other family members, everybody in your circle, because again, it's this works best with as many hands as possible involved in case of emergency.
So
Um, mhm.
what are some of the things that you are doing with these particular groups or ministries that uh, are they connecting with one another or are you at that point yet where they're actually working together to say if something happens over here, then I know that these people over here are going to come, or that communications go down? Are you where are you with that?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. We are still in our infant stage, but it's funny how the Lord brings things together. It started out where I started to move forward after the COVID shenanigans, all
Mm,
that mess. Um, I started meeting with a men's group. From that particular men's group, I was connected with a much larger men's group.
mhm,
And within that larger men's group, we are beginning to look at training, just basic training, and also trying to come up with a realistic communications network, a technological communications network. We've settled on a radio system that appears to fit in with what we want to do. And that alone is like a beast
mm,
of a project. And we still don't have key people in place to be able to bring that to where it needs to be. But we do have a pilot ministry that is presently very active in an outreach in our area. Calvary Chapel, I want to give a shout out
mhm,
to Pastor Al's ministry in Bethlehem, who
mhm,
has an active outreach that we're using as a pilot program in terms of what is needed to provide communications to help support what they do, and also to consult them on how they're doing it in order to provide assistance in that or support in that sense.
mm,
Not telling them what to do, but basically getting an idea of what they do so that we can help support them in what they do. And that's the whole idea. And that's the idea. By being connected with these men's ministries, I'm connected with all of these men's churches in an indirect or direct way as well.
mhm.
So it's starting to come. It's starting to come together.
Well, that's good to hear. It's hard because it can be, and we talked about this before, it can be overwhelming. Even
It
for the
is.
individual, for the group, you have your life, but then you're trying to, be prepared as best you can. And with the way things have been with crazy weather these days and all kinds of stuff happening, I believe that people are waking up more, which is really good. And I think it all starts with, and we've talked about this before, it starts with the mindset, the
Yes.
preparedness mindset. And so, and then from moving from the individual to the family to the group, to the community. So it takes a while. There's actually a group in West Virginia that I know that's pretty far along in this. They meet with their community. They have different things that they're teaching, they're learning. I believe they have the communications in place. And again, like you said, the area that you live in will probably determine maybe even your urgency or the things that have been happening, things that you've gone
Absolutely.
through, because we know that we we go about our lives
Yeah.
until we
Stuff that
can't,
happened. Exactly.
and Oh gosh. But anyway, I feel like people are waking up to that, and so, and yeah, getting beyond your doors, your in the case that you're dealing with it, beyond your own ministry, beyond, we've
Your
got,
family, your own
yeah, we've
life.
got to unify, we've got to come together and spread this net wider
Yes, yes, yes,
in
absolutely.
order to, and to share resources. And and I want to just put this out there too. Most of our audience, if they are pretty well in the mindset of preparedness, know that there could come a time when we can't depend on our emergency response people because they're going to be overwhelmed. And so then what happens? So that's why we do all that we do with offering all the classes, the CPR, the first aid, the personal protection, the self-defense, those kinds of things, and the emergency preparedness um, discussions and things that we do with that is that, we can become more confident then,
Yes,
knowing that if there is a major disaster that they cannot get to us, we can help ourselves out. We can help our neighbors out. So,
absolutely. Absolutely. And these smaller crises that we experience on a regular basis, to me, we should use them as drills. See, I think that I think what seems to work for people to kind of get their mind around this idea of um, of sustainability is that not think of it as being something separate.
mhm,
Oh, this is something more I have to do. No, this should be the center of what we do.
mhm,
It's a part of life. That's why when you speak to a farmer
mhm,
or a person that's, you know, been brought up in an environment where self-preservation is a premium,
mhm.
um, it's they don't think of it as being separate. It's the core of their living and
Yeah.
being, and that's where we have to be. I've often sat back and thought about how pampered we are as a society. The more built up the areas in which we live, the more pampered we are. There are these many safety features
Mhm.
and uh, comforts that eliminate us having to even think about how
Right.
to keep warm, how to keep food on the table, how to keep power to run things. You
Mhm,
know, we just turn on a light switch. We just turn a faucet on. We just
mhm.
you know, call DoorDash. It's like everything is so convenient and easy. But
Yeah,
once
that's part of the
the systems
problem, right?
fail,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
it's,
a huge part of the problem. So
it's
if
catastrophic.
so okay, so if there's somebody comes upon this recording and they want to know, how do we get started? What should we do? I will link contact info below in the description of this recording. Um, is there anything you want to say to them as far as what you might be willing to help with, or what they should start with?
Yes. Well, I will say this: we have extended ourselves, made ourselves available, and I've also even gone beyond our organization to say, look, if you give me a place in which to put my soapbox, I'll come and talk to you. It doesn't cost anything. It's just a matter of just let me in. I don't have to sell you anything. I don't need to sell you anything. What I
Mhm.
want to do is to find out what your needs are and tell you the best way to address those needs. And that doesn't cost anything. Well, it may cost you the light bill, to make sure I have light to be able to see.
Yeah,
But you don't even have to have on any heat. I'll dress warmly. It doesn't cost you anything. And
prepared.
unfortunately, many people, organizations don't even take that. you know.
Hmm.
Uh, and I know they know they need it, but I guess it's a matter of prioritization, like for all of us. It
Yeah.
really
That's it.
is. But what I'm
Yeah.
saying
So,
is you have to prioritize now, or you're going to prioritize very painfully
yeah.
later.
Yeah. Well, uh, so is there, so I think that's that's a really good ending point, a very good summary. Prioritize now or prioritize later, when
Painfully.
painfully. Yeah. So, anything else that you want to say in closing? I'm so glad to hear that this is network is starting to form and people are waking up more and being proactive in really putting this thing together. And I just thank you, Thurston, for sticking with this for so long. I know this is your mission. And I appreciate all that you have done for our organization and for all those people. I know that there are people who are just, they come out of your classes and when they fill out their evaluation form, they always, one of the main things that they say quite often is how much information they receive from you, complete information in every one of your classes. And so they walk away with enough to, if first of all, think upon, and then second to take action upon. So thank you for all of that. And I just want to just encourage people to really begin to have this mindset if you don't already. Take a look at where you are in your preparations, in your mindset, in your thought process, where you want to go. Take a look at some of we've done numerous videos on different topics. So stay in the channel, take a look at some of those and educate yourself that way. If you have something that you want to share, we've got a Facebook emergency preparedness group. Please get in there, contact us. I'd love to have a conversation with you on how you are preparing. It's good to hear, not just from us, but from other people who
Yes.
are actually doing this.
Oh, yes.
It's really good to be encouraged by them. And there are again, there are some recordings of people that I've interviewed that are doing this. Some are living on and creating their own homesteads and really, really, building from the ground up. So make sure that you take a look at the other interviews that we've done. And Thurston, anything else that you'd like to add?
Yes. Um, uh, and you kind of mentioned it. It's not only about sharing resources in a crisis. It's also about sharing the skills, knowledge, and experience that you presently have before the crisis. I've met many folks that some of them are going to be watching this video. I know your skill sets, and some of you have shared them, but some of you have not. Some of you don't realize the value that you have in sharing what you do,
Mhm.
and that can benefit others. Everything that you've been blessed with that can help protect people, you should take every opportunity to share it.
Right.
That's how we build strong communities.
Don't keep it
Um,
to yourself.
to
And if you're
yourself.
really camera shy, we can keep your camera off. We don't have to
There
have
you
the
go.
camera on, but
But we need for you to speak.
yeah,
The Lord's given you a mouth to speak and words to put behind it. We need for you to speak. We need for you to share.
make a sound. That's my other channel that I have called The Sound. And actually, you can hop over there and hear how people are making their sound. So you have a sound to make. If you have information, like Thurston said, it is important for others to have. It's not for us to just keep to ourselves. We don't live here by ourselves. So get with us, contact us. All right. Well, thank you again, Thurston. We're gonna
Thank you.
we are going to be we have some more coming to you, so stay tuned. Don't forget to hit the like button, please subscribe, share. We like to go live. We need to get those subscriptions up. Like, subscribe, comment, share this with others. Again, this is not just our small little audience that should be receiving this, but the world, Worldwide Academy, right? Okay. So we'll see you again next time. For now, just keep on moving forward. All right, thanks. See you.
Bye, everybody.